Hey, do you know what time it is? That's right. It's time for Coach Lindy's podcast. The podcast to get you moving. Hi, I'm Lindy Hutchinson, a certified life mastery consultant with the Brave Thinking Institute. As a life coach, I help others transform their life as I have mine. It's not easy, but it is possible, and it most certainly is worth it. Each week, I'll share insights that inform, inspire, and ignite in you your desire to create a life that you love. So let's find out what's going on this week. Greetings. Always good to see you. So we're continuing our series on the suffragettes. And we've talked about Susan B. Anthony. We've talked about Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Now we're going to talk about a lady who introduced these two ladies together. And her name is Amelia Bloomer. And Amelia, which we'll get into, created the Bloomers. This is a picture that appeared in her magazine or newspaper. It was called the Bloomer costume. We'll get more into that as we go. But Amelia is seen in this life-size statue, and she is introducing none other than Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton in 1851 at the convention. And she begins to write her magazine, The Lily, or I guess it was a newspaper. And a lot of what Susan B. and Elizabeth talked about formed the information that she published in her magazine or newspaper for women. And her angle, as it turns out, when she attended the Seneca Convention, Seneca Falls Convention, in what year was it? 1848. She was talking to some of the ladies, and she became inspired to write a newspaper called The Lily for home distribution among ladies. And in 1851, when she met up with Susan B. and Elizabeth, they were talking about a style that they had seen in Europe and also was popular in the Middle East and throughout Asia. And that's where women wore these long, like billowy pants under like a vest or a dress. So at the time, this was still the Victorian era, and women only wore dresses and the elaborate buttons and the big hooped skirts and I don't know how much time they spent getting dressed, but they decided amongst themselves, and then Amelia, in her newspaper, her periodical, said that she would start promoting this style. And she wore it for a while, and they were called bloomers. That was the beginning. So a little background on Amelia. She was born in 1818, and she passed away in 1894. She came from a modest family in Homer, New York. She was one of the younger ones in a large family of 4 sisters and 2 brothers. At 17, though her education was fairly limited, she was very bright and she enjoyed learning. And at 17, for a short time, she was a school teacher. And then she decided to move to Waterloo, New York with her newly married sister. And she ended up becoming a governess in Seneca Falls to a wealthy family there. She ended up at 22 meeting and marrying her husband, whose last name was Bloomer, He was a law student, and he ended up, though, writing and publishing a newspaper, the Seneca Falls County Courier. She was supported by him to start writing editorials in his newspaper, and it says that because she was a part of the temperance movement, he actually gave up alcohol. So that's a lot of support. So she ended up, as we talked about, going to the 1848 convention. She became very inspired by what she heard about women's rights. So she started writing the Lily. This is called bi-weekly. They're referring to it as a journal, but it was for women. In fact, she said that she, Amelia Bloomer, was the first woman to own, operate, and edit a news vehicle for women. So she had the power to start persuading others to become involved. And then in 1851, she came up with her bloomers. And the idea was, and there was discussion amongst other people like activist Elizabeth Smith Miller, to adopt more casual clothing. And of course, today it's fantastic. We've got stretchy t-shirt material and biker shorts and sweats, and things are really casual. But if you look back in the 1800s, there was nothing casual. Everybody was, even people who didn't have much money, you had to dress a certain way. And everything was like with little tiny buttons. They had buttons on their shoes and buttons on and they had to wear corsets. What a nightmare. But anyway, Amelia, our spotlighted suffragette, she saw this as very intrusive, and it wasn't practical for women in so many ways, where they needed the freedom of movement. And in those big dresses, you couldn't do that. Now, she took a lot of heat for her bloomers. A lot of people didn't like it. She and her husband moved from New York to Iowa, and she ended up kind of acquiescing and wearing a regular dress because she was ahead of her time. But she is recognized as someone who started the movement to change dress for women so they could be more comfortable and not so confined in their clothing. So this week, I've decided on using the power word innovator. Amelia Bloomer created bloomers, and the idea was to help free women and wear clothing that was modest, but still easier to move around in and create actual physical freedom. And we can say that Amelia got to the seat of the problem. I couldn't help myself. So Amelia Bloomer, suffragette, she worked her whole life in promoting the suffragette ideas. She got involved in the causes. She has many accolades that shows that she was a strong activist and certainly supporting her friends that a statue was actually made of with Susan B. and Elizabeth Cady. How much fun having the support of your friends and being united in an effort to help eventually billions of women. So Amelia Bloomer, look her up. As you know, there's a lot of free material, and you can listen or watch videos on YouTube, or look up the books. There's been so much written, and these stories are very long and complicated. So if you're washing the dishes or doing laundry or driving, commuting to work, it's great to listen to the details, many details. And women like Amelia, like Susan B. and Elizabeth, they all had men who supported them. So I don't want to leave them out. We appreciate that they weren't popular either, because a lot of people didn't want to abolish slavery or have women with the right to vote and have financial freedom and even freedom from complicated clothing. So from the, hey, that's funny, this is anonymous. Why do we press harder on the remote when we know the batteries are weak? Yeah, me too. Or standing at the cross light in the crosswalk, and you keep pushing the button. Because you know it's going to change faster the more you push the button, right? Okay, well, enjoy your week. As always, it's my pleasure to be with you, and we'll look at another suffragette who made our life much better by working hard for the good of the whole. Have a great week. Take care. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for joining me this week. I look forward to being with you every week. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, please email me at coachlindy@lindyhutchinson.com. My name is spelled L-Y-N-D-I, so it's Coach Lindy, L-Y-N-D-I, at Lindy Hutchinson, LYNDIHUTCHINSON.com. I value what your input is, and I'm always open up for suggestions and ideas. If you will like and or subscribe to this podcast, that would be wonderful. I appreciate it. And I enjoy anything that you might want to send in, or if you would like some more information about coaching, send me an email and I will get back with you, and we'll talk about how you can create your best life. Have a good week. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.